All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Going to be breaking down the 5-game slate that we have today on Sunday. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, guys, this is going to be another pretty interesting slate here today where we're not necessarily getting the best payups possible here today. We're like Wemby, not perfect play. We got Giannis, who I kind of is actually going to end up sitting. I think he's going to sit, and Kevin Porter Jr. is going to end up being active, just with it being the back end of a back-to-back. Obviously, him coming back from injury, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll be preparing for that. Banchero in that same game, a little bit priced up, but there's a lot of players that are questionable on his team. So kind of interesting there. And then Sengun and Kevin Durant, not projected to be the best plays in general. So it's kind of another slate where, like yesterday I was saying, the pay up I actually like the most is Ryan Rollins, who was priced at 8K, and that it was just kind of a weird slate in general. Now, as the day progressed, we ended up getting some pretty good value, which is kind of what we're seeing here today as well. But let's go ahead and get into the position by position breakdown here. And so let's go ahead and start out here with the guards, guys. So to me, the most appealing game is probably going to be this Washington versus Pelicans game. But also, I think the Chicago versus Sacramento Kings game is also going to be a pretty interesting game. And so let's go ahead and take a peek at the Washington versus Pelicans game. The tough part about the Pelicans is that they're healthy. So we're not necessarily getting any big edges there in regards to players being underpriced, but it doesn't end up being a good matchup for them. This is a 242 game total, 9-point spread in favor of the Pelicans. And then we look at Washington, guys. They are pretty banged up, but Sarr is expected to be back here tonight. And then also Trae Young is back. So we really don't know what to expect here from Washington, but that does make, I would say, the Pelicans in general much more appealing because they're going to be on the side of the blowout. They're going to be the team blowing out the other team, but I think with Trae Young and Sarr being there, it should be able to keep the game close enough for long enough. Then we take a peek at the Chicago versus Kings game. We are going to see a lot of players out for the Kings as they happen, but Cardwell and Murray are the two that have been out recently. That being said, Reynaud is going to be in play for me, and then you got Precious as well, who's been going off recently. I think he's going to be a viable option. And then, yes, for Chicago, we got to wait and see whether or not Josh Giddey's active. If he sits, I think that makes Trey Jones much more appealing, with Simons already being out and with Jaden Ivey already being out. On top of that, guys, Jalen Smith currently questionable. If he were to sit, that is going to make Modest much more appealing. Patrick Williams has been upgraded to questionable. So just a lot of interesting spots here. Just be on the lookout for the news here for Chicago, because that's obviously going to really dictate a lot of the slate, I think, if the news kind of breaks in some interesting ways. And for example, guys, if Josh Giddey were to sit, that would mean like Rob Dillingham becomes one of the better plays on the slate. But for now, I think Trey Jones is pretty appealing. Okay, I don't think he's like a must play by any means, but we do see, over his past few games, guys, he has been someone that's been playing better recently, and so overall I'm okay getting to him, especially in, again, a good matchup. And then in general, we take a peek at the shooting guards. Okoro, some of that, is my prototypical shoulder shrug play. If Colin Sexton is forced into more work here as well, I think he'd be someone that we could be looking at as well. But again, we are just waiting on the news here, because Gorsan Yusabeli might be someone we're looking at. Nick Richards could be much more appealing. If both Modest and Jalen Smith are out, they'd be too cheap. And so this could end up being a slate in which we are going to get to like 4 Chicago Bulls players. At the same time, we probably would want to try to run it back there with the Kings. And so we take a peek at some of the Kings plays. Guard-wise, Clifford's finally gotten the proper price bump. And so with that, I don't necessarily see anyone that we need to get there for the Kings in general, except for like Precious and Reynaud. Those are the two that I would be considering to be on the most here. So Precious has been something that's been going off recently, guys. And so I think it's perfectly fine to continue to ride the hot hand with him. He's actually giving me someone I'm playing a decent amount here today. But then we also have Reynaud, who has been someone that's been productive as well. I think he's going to be a very viable option for us as well. Projected for 31 minutes. If he does end up getting that again in this game that's projected to stay close, I do think there's a good chance that he gives us more DFS points than what he did in the last game. So he had 15.5 in the last game, but we have seen him go for 40 plus. It's risk reward, but I think the reward is pretty high here today. So I actually am perfectly fine getting to both of them. That's kind of the issue though, is that do they both correlate together on every slate? Probably not. But at the same time, I do think them combined could give you 30 DFS points and like 80. Okay, that's the realm of possibilities with both of them. So very interesting there for the Kings. But let's go ahead and zoom back out. Let's jump into some more of those guard plays in general. the data, it really likes like Trey Murphy and also Jeremiah Fears, who I'm perfectly fine with. I kind of see them more as shoulder shrug plays. They're a little bit too cheap. They could have upside, but they're definitely not lock and loads to go off. I don't mind the idea of setting a rule to get to like 2 of the Pelican plays just because they are in a phenomenal matchup. Getting which 2 right is tough, but there's a good chance that, at least 2 of the Pelicans are going to end up being the GPP winning lineup. So not a terrible approach to go with there, but also, there's not much conviction there, and I don't like doing that. Drew Holiday, something that becomes pretty interesting today as well. So they could be without Denny Avdia again tonight, and if they are, we have seen Drew Holiday going off recently, guys. So he really went off in his last game, but he ends up being someone that is much more appealing if Avdia sits. He's a little bit too priced up if Avdia ends up playing. At the same time, I could see myself getting into him just in general. Like, he's still going to be a solid play. Now let's go ahead and jump on into the forwards. So what's interesting about today, guys, is, again, I do think that Giannis is probably going to end up sitting. And so if he does, I think Dieng is someone that we should just be looking at regardless, because he's someone that I expect to get a minutes bump here. And again, if Giannis sits, then he just becomes much more appealing. So I'm perfectly fine to get to him as a value. The data doesn't like it too much this early, but again, it will, I think, as the day progresses, once we get news that Giannis is going to end up sitting there. Let's just talk about the Bucks as well. So again, I'm under the expectation that Giannis is going to end up sitting, and if he does, we could be looking at Kevin Porter Jr., we could be looking at Ryan Rollins. Like, those two definitely correlate. If Giannis ends up sitting, that does bring into play like Jericho Sims as a potential value, and then like Kuzma is probably a little bit too cheap, has a little bit more upside. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for 40 fantasy points. But those are a bunch of if-then statements. Like, if Giannis sits, then I think like Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be more likely to play, and then Porter becomes obviously much more appealing if he's going to play and not be limited. That's also a key part of that. Let's go ahead and just take a peek at the centers as well. So again, I already like into like Precious and also Raynaud kind of the most here today on the slate. Wemby, if you need to pay up for him, you can. Kling Yang, I'm fine with him, kind of a shoulder shrug play. Siakam, I don't necessarily love. If Jalen Smith is active and Modest is not, I think he's fine. If they both sit, then yes, we're looking at Corson a bunch. So again, guys, it's kind of an interesting slate to break down right now because there just is a ton of if-then statements, with players being potentially in or out. So let's go ahead and try to build you guys some lineups here. So you guys see I do have Dieng, Precious, and Raynaud in there already. And so with there, we do need to find a point guard that, we feel confident with is going to have a good game here today. And again, if my assumption is correct that Giannis does end up sitting and Porter's active, I think this ends up being the play that we want to get to is going to be Kevin Porter Jr. And so from there, we'll jump on into the shooting guards. And let's actually put him in the shooting guard position. We'll put Rollins in the point guard spot. Okay, so right now that does leave us with like 6K left over on average with what we can do with our lineups here, guys. And so we got the guard, forward, and utility spot left. So we'll just take a peek at the top guards. Again, very difficult to like tell you guys exactly where to go right now. As the day progresses, I think we'll get a little bit more clarity there. For now, I actually like Trey Jones as price tag. I think he could be someone we're looking at just because, again, I expect some of those players to end up sitting. So we'll do that. Then we'll get into the forwards here. I'll go with Gorson. I think he's fine. We'll put Gorson in there. And then we have utility spot. What do we have? $8,000 left over. So who's the top $8,000? I mean, it's Josh Giddey right now or Trey Murphy. We'll put Trey Murphy in there just to be safe. So not a perfect lineup. I mean, guys, this is the slate here. So we have about 240 total fantasy points here in this lineup, but that should be going up. I mean, if, again, Giannis is out, Rollins is going to be projected for about 5 more. Rollins would be projected for about 5 more as well. So those are my thoughts on the slate, but let's see what the 9-to-5 lineup builder is telling us are the top builds, and it is somewhat similar, but also a little bit different. So it went with Fears, Trey Jones, okay, then Julian Champagnie, which I thought was interesting, Zion. Again, I'm perfectly fine getting to 2 of the Pelicans. Then it went with Raynaud, Drew Holiday, Modest, and then Precious. So some interesting spots there in general, but you guys can see it right now. It's a tighter slate in regards to the top lineups. Again, that'll probably change throughout the day, but I think I prepared you guys enough for those potential news items to break it and what to do there. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. If you guys want access to any of those tools that you saw throughout this video, make sure to head on over to 9to5sports.com. That's going to do it, guys. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, let's keep cashing.